Hello and welcome to Star Citizen Sunday with me, Ryan, aka Mac. This is a weekly show which covers everything from the world of Star Citizen over the past week. Links to everything discussed can be found in the description below, so let's get on with it. This week we hear how the music logic system works, we get to see the Drake Herald in its final art pass, plus there's a cool sneak peek revealing some improvements to the new FPS. So this week's Around the Verse came from Austin, Texas. First of all, we sat down with a chap called Jason Cobb, who is the senior audio creator. And he is working on sounds for debris, so when you fly through an explosion, you will be able to hear little tinks and clacks on the side of your ship, as you would expect. This was actually requested by the community, which is why they have started doing it. He gives some reverb effect to it as well. It's very, very cool. I will let you listen to it without without myself talking over the top.
The effects, they start to take on some character of, impacting a hull.
And something I want to point out is look at his setup. What an absolutely awesome setup this guy's got. Looks like the interior of the Herald, which you will see later. He said it needs a lot of fine tuning, but he did say that the tiny details adds just another level of the realism, and it does sound very cool. From there, we spoke to the DevOps team, and basically DevOps have three areas. You've got Build Ops, Live Ops, and Publishing. Now Build Ops, they manage and configure all the builds of the game that are being used. Live Ops create tools and automation systems. Publishing obviously publish the game. They take approved builds and then set them live, which is, when we get them, basically. The current patch is a problem, as they have said. We know this. Currently, it takes far too long to download the game. Even if there's only two files that have changed within the game build, we still have to download the full game every single time. So they're working to make it so that you only have to download those two small files rather than the full thing again. Basically, the patch size, he says, will be reduced by 90%, which is incredible. But again, without this back-end infrastructure, this game just wouldn't happen. It's a big deal. They are the unsung heroes. They're the people that are locked away behind closed doors. You don't see them often, but we owe a lot to them. So, the ship shape this week was the Drake Herald, and it's on its final art pass right now. This is the info runner. It's got big external data banks to store volumes of intel assets, so things like locations of certain things, like locations of a good mining spot, maybe some salvage, black boxes, all sorts of information. It's very, very fast. As you can see, it's got a massive engine, and it's the biggest engine per mass, so kind of like a dragster style car. He did say we expect to see them in racing because they are very hard to catch. They will be a cool ship to fly. It's also loaded with lots of countermeasures, as you can imagine. If you are trying to get away from someone, you don't want to be fighting them, you just want to go and just drop a lot of countermeasures to get out of there. So we saw the internals as well, and they look absolutely awesome. It's very much like an FBI van, where you've got all these little stations where you can... I don't even know what they're for, to be honest. I've never even thought about it. He says, thinking about the Herald, words that come to mind are speed, science, tech, and evasion. I love the cockpit stick. That just looks so like a Russian helicopter. Very, very cool. The comm station, which is in the middle, the seat will slide in and out as well so that you can go behind the back of it, but the back wall behind the seat had to be sort of restructured to give more room so that the people who want to get around the back can actually get through. We also saw a bit of the destruction. It says at 100% damage, things will pop off. They'll use shaders to create this. And also we saw him shooting at the ship as well. Now, he did say that there are some areas, as you can probably see here if I've timed it right, where when you're shooting at the ship, it doesn't recognize it, or it doesn't register that on the ship. What he's doing is he's basically shooting at the ship to try and find these points, and then he goes in and sort of just tweaks it to make sure that the damage will show up there. Looking very, very cool. I love the Drake Herald. Anyway, from there, Tyler Whitkin gave us a community update. Most valuable post went to Jay Coran for his CitizenCon travel guide. Some great information there if you are going to CitizenCon. It'll help you out no end, so do check that out. The link is in the description. And finally, we had a behind the scenes looking at this music logic system. So whatever you're doing, the music system will respond dynamically. It'll be ambient for when you're just exploring on foot. Then if you get into a ship, it'll change into a sort of flight ambient music and vice versa. Also for EVA, the music will change. It does sound very, very cool when he goes into EVA. I love this stuff.
So a really nice example we're working on at the moment is the ambient music. This is when there's not really, any combat or anything going on. We're just exploring spaces and stuff. At the moment, we're hearing some FPS music. So this is just the engine knows that we're on foot. It's playing sort of a slightly synthy, slightly tense underscore that's very ambient. Then as you move into the ship, it'll slowly transition to a more grand kind of exploration kind of feel to the music. And that's based on the conditions we know. We know that you're in the ship now, and we know that the engines are starting, that kind of thing. And go for a big leap out into space, you'll hear the music transition. And there we go, and now we've got this really cool, ethereal, almost Kraftwerk-esque ambient music. All of this by Pedro.
If you're in flight combat, the music will be more sort of tense. It kind of goes up in numbers, so, you know, 1 being very little tension, and then up to 10, just crazy tension. It will work for all types of gameplay, so yes, FPS, EVA, flight, it'll dynamically change in between. It's completely autonomous. This will be available in 2.6 apparently, so we can look forward to it for there. Although I generally turn music off for immersion reasons, I'm still debating whether or not I want to keep it on just to hear Pedro's amazing work. Anyway, that was Around the Verse. Do tell me your thoughts, guys. So I reversed the verse this week. Although it was 40 minutes long, it's only going to be a short one because a lot of the questions that these people got were to do with how to get into the industry or what challenges they had. Nothing that was really based around the gameplay or anything that was too intriguing or revealing. So kicking it off was the DevOps and IT director called Mike Jones. Now, with events like Gamescom, these guys are just kept so busy as there are far more builds being pushed through the system. Every time a dev pushes a change, they have to push it out and deploy it. Sometimes they say you can have 6, 7, 8 builds in a day. They try to make the downtime for ourselves as little as possible. They currently have about 9 people working in DevOps. And again, without DevOps providing these builds and making sure that everything and everyone is connected in the game, the game just won't be able to continue. They are so important, and because it doesn't look fancy or it's not a ship, they get unnoticed sometimes, so big shout out to those guys. Patch reduction is the current challenge, they say. They really want to do it right. Apparently they attempted it a little while ago, it didn't work, so now they're doing it right, where they're just going to decrease the sizes of patches that we need to download, instead of downloading the whole game every time. They're working on that now. We didn't get a date, but hopefully will come soon. So from there, we spoke to Josh Coons, who is the 3D artist, and he's currently working on the Herald. Now, the Herald is the first ship that Josh has done all the art on. He has worked on the Constellation with Chris Smith. This is his own baby that he's working on as the Herald. Now, just for an example, the Caterpillar would have multiple artists working on it. He says around 4 to 5. The Herald, he is just working on his own on it because it is a much smaller ship compared to the Caterpillar. The ships that Josh has worked on is the Constellation, as mentioned, the Katu Al, as well as the Mustang Delta. He militarized the Mustang and made the Delta, which is a very, very cool ship. So the first question for him was, what type of ship do you prefer? And he says military ships, basically. That's why he really enjoyed working on the Mustang Delta. Did you add anything personal to the Herald? And he says, yes, the giant pipes on the side. He said he took a risk putting them there, but Chris Roberts said that he liked them. He also made it look a little more aggressive as well, with more better angles, rather than, he said it was kind of bubble-like, and it looks like a tick. So he kind of makes it look a bit more aggressive. Next question was, what ship size do you prefer working on? And he said it was fun working with teams or with people like Chris Smith on the bigger ships, but he says the smaller ships, you can get it out faster and people can see your work and it's just good to see the reactions from the people. So the final question for him is, what ship is next? Now, he says the Caterpillar Black is the next ship that he's going to work on, which is very, very cool. A lot of people waiting for that. Currently, the Caterpillar is just a mess. It's going to be awesome. After that, he has the Constellation Taurus, which is the cargo variant of the Constellation. Last is the Phoenix. Now, he did mention about the hot tub, because a lot of people, it's kind of 50-50. Some people like the hot tub, some people don't. So he did say that what you're going to do is retract the dinner table, and then I assume the hot tub would pop up. It won't just be sitting there out in the open. I'm assuming you can cover it up and hide it when you don't want it, or if you just don't want to use it at all. And then if you do want to use it, press a button, table will disappear somewhere, like fold up or something, and then the hot tub will rise. Anyway, as I say, very short this week. That was Reverse the Verse. Let's move on. So we had a little sneak peek in this week's newsletter. Now this is a video basically showing on head stabilization, which is head bobbing games, so when your head bounces around again, your view bounces in first person, is not entirely realistic. In real life, your eyes actually counter this bobbing. So if you're jogging along, you will sort of focus on one point and you won't see the bouncing up and down like you would do if you played a game. So what they're doing is they're stabilizing your vision to make it more realistic and to make it smoother. So what we see here is plenty of aiming, moving around with weapons, weapon play, shooting and so forth, just to show off head stabilization as well as everything else that they are working on. Now the weapons look a lot more polished and clean. We can see attachments to the Bayring weapon with the sight and the front handle. We also get to see a bit of the AI as well. Again, not final, so, ignore the shouting in the background and, their ability to fight. We can also see the little bit of a HUD update in the left-hand corner. You can see the map, the mini-map. And something to point out is the ragdoll effects when he starts shooting people. It is looking very realistic. I do like this. I am wondering, though, if this Port Olisar will be one of the FPS levels in Star Marine, because it would just be a kind of a cool place to battle it out. But just before we end, we also entered the latest shop addition to Olisar, which is going to be Dumper's Depot. You can see on the clerk's desk, we have 2 missiles. Now, Dumper's Depot is a place where you can buy and sell ship parts and so forth. So your missiles on there, and when he turns around, the shelves near the door, they have 3 sizes of shields. Very, very cool. As I say, this looks a lot smoother. It is running at 60 FPS. It's probably offline now, not in a server, but they are doing things to improve that. I'm sure Star Marine will run much smoother, like Arena Commander runs now, because it is not really an online universe. But it does just build a hype, especially for 2.6 and Star Marine. So also this week we had a new up.net post titled Branching Out. Lawmaker's Guide to the Galaxy this week was with the lead writer Dave Haddock, focusing on the Nick system. Chris Roberts wanted to point out a new Kickstarter campaign for a game called Dual Universe. It does look very, very interesting. Please click the link in my description to take you there. Galactic Tour was back as well this week with Bomber of the Year, so you can choose between either the Retaliator or the Gladius. Both of them are awesome ships, available to fly now. In fact, they've actually been unlocked for us all to fly in Crusader and Arena Commander. And finally, for any RSI subscribers out there, your jump point is available to read. So that brings us to the end of the show. Thank you for watching, and thank you to our subscribers, plus a massive thank you to our patrons as you make this possible. If you like what we do and want to help us make it better, follow the link in the description to our Patreon page to learn more.